Hey y'all, Monk Joseph here with the Broken Buddha. I gotta make one more video tonight because for Wing Chun because I made a mistake in my Wing Chun 101 video that I noticed and I gotta clarify that. And we'll go ahead and do a 102. All right. So we already started with some of the basics, basic footworks and stance. The thing I messed up that I wanted to clarify is I got all excited and talking about the real switching style Chun, but Chun is typically used to switch. So to give you a better understanding of Chun, it's a lot quicker to be able to switch from orthodox to southpaw and vice versa. So when you're in your Wing Chun stance and you're here, right? When you switch, you just go here. So if you're fighting somebody who's ambidextrous and they're squaring up and then they take another stance, you don't got to do anything or take any extra steps. You're literally just switching sides. But you got to make sure you do your sequences and dummy work and techniquing ambidextrous, or this isn't going to. I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to work, but you have to be used to doing everything from both sides, which we do in Wing Chun. But you got to break the familiarity of only doing it this way or that way. You got to do it mirrored, also. So yeah, so when I was saying Chun, I was talking more about switching the strike really quick. Whereas typically, classically speaking, if you're just starting Wing Chun, it's going to be, again, remember I like the palm up version. It's going to be Chun and then Chun. So when somebody switches, you just switch, and then you'll just step forward as you're going through. But yeah, we can switch southpaw to orthodox in a split second. It is an ambidextrous system, and if you know how to use it, it's very, very effective. So that covers that. So let's go ahead and get into some more of it. I only taught the first part of the Pak Sao, and the reason being I didn't want to overcomplicate stuff. So we'll get into that in the four contact points, and then I'm gonna close this video out. So, and where tuning comes important is like if you're here and then you see something, you need to switch and then do a Hunsua Paksao. It helps to be able to just have that quick split second. If somebody decides to throw a fake, it takes them a lot longer to change or throw their fake than it does for you to just tune. All right. So that being said, a lot of times when you Paksao, what I was doing in the first video is when you chamber out the Paksao and then you go in. I didn't really state what was going on, and I don't have someone today or then to work with, so I'm going to just explain it to you. When you're here, a lot of times people are very committed to their strikes, and when you Pox out, their limb's going that way, and it's going that way moderately hard. They're not going to understand what's happening, and a lot of times you can just step in, check the elbow, and strike, 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 right? But sometimes, especially if they're quick in reaction, after you Pox out, you got to push the elbow. You always want to go for the elbow so it's a better target and it moves slower. And then you'll step in, brain, 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 right? So not to say that you can't step off and go in, bam, bam, bam. That's a lot of the Filipino flavor stuff only does the single strike and then strike right away. But if a lot of times if you're really messing with somebody who knows how to react or they got a good flow, you gotta boom, boom, because they're gonna as soon as you put their hand, they're gonna try to come back. And if you can push it, then you'll be ready to go ahead and take your shot. Okay. So that covers that. I fixed the tune. I added in the double, and that's for both sides. As soon as you're here, anytime you get somebody's limb, you're gonna want to push and step in, right? And make sure you're stepping into their weak side. Don't step into their center line. Once you get them off, step and control that entire side. Don't let them turn back around. I mean, because then their only choice is to turn their back on you, and that's the end of any street fight if you know what you're doing, and if they're that stupid. Um, okay, so there you go. You have that, and of course you have the center line stuff that I was saying, where you can just step up and throw a punch or step up and then sidestep. But I also wanted to mention first thing is move out of the way. I am not saying to Paksao like this. Your head should not be there when the strike gets there. And on top of that, you're pushing it away or you're bong saoing to deflect it. I didn't want to get too much into the other strikes because I didn't want people to get confused. Bong sao is something you have to train and practice in real time to be able to use. And we'll get into that in a second. So the four contact points, which is what I want to talk on in 102, is when you're in a fight, there's only four limb contact points that can occur: outside opposite, inside same, outside same. Outside same, you're obviously gonna typically go for your pox out, but there's a million things you can do depending on what you're going for. So we'll go right into inside same. We already covered that with going right up the straight line. You can also there's things you can do where if you were to check, you could easily go in for a snake strike, and so you can do like a data shao as opposed to a tan style, and then go for your strike. But typically, if it's same side inside, you're gonna just step up, especially if it's a committed strike. I mean, if it's a jab, you can pox out, get out of the way, pivot their body, and go in. If it's a committed strike, then you can kind of step in and do that thing I was saying from 101. All right. Cross arm. This is where things get tricky, okay? And whether you go to Data Shao or Tan Sao, there's a good chance you're going to end up in a Fuke Sao to get that limb out of the way, right? So as soon as you, I mean, you shouldn't be here, but it does happen, and in the flow and in reactivity. So when you are here, you're really quick, and if they're more than likely gonna come with the other hand. So you're just gonna do the exact same thing. Once you have this one pinned, do the exact same rotation, Tan Sao or Data Shao, wrap into a Fuke Sao, and then pin that arm against the other arm and pop. All right. So, so there you have it. So you'd be bam. Here comes the other hand, and there's bam. Right. So and just practice those movements. Practice just like the other side with the fakes, practice going from here to here, and it doesn't matter. I know I didn't do the palm second time. A lot of times I go for finger strikes because I don't fight, and you're going to want to go for an eye if you're really there because you can easily just boom, boom, and you've got more extension to reach here. I should be more out of the way and then step up, bop, bop, bop. And then the cross arm outside is probably the hardest, but those are going to be typically initiated by you. I mean, if you're doing any type of like cloud hand style clearing going forward, you may come into contact with it directly, but a lot of times these don't happen very common. And you're going to see it more in like a committed strike when you throw like a threaded hand or an upright bong sao or a fire motion if we're talking classical kung fu, and then you'll pull down after you get their limb up. You'll either strike somewhere here while pulling at the wrist and extending their body, or you'll straight pull, hitting nerves in the hand and face at the same time, or eyes, right? So if you do end up in that position, somebody's throwing committed strike, and you just boom, boom, right? You shoot up, coming down, same time, pull the wrist, strike the eyes or throat, and then step forward, bow, 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 bow. Got it? So same thing for the other side, same side, cock, sal, push, boom, boom, boom. A lot of times here you're coming in for these. If you're going to step into it, contacting the same side. Always look out for the other side though. And yeah, that's kind of where we set up strike. We try to stick to the outsides in Wing Chun. There are other groups that go right to the center line all the time. Personally, I think it's best to know both. And then of course the same thing when you're doing the inside opposite. A lot of people would say Tan Sao, Fuke Sao swap. The only reason I say Dada Shao is because sometimes if you're going in for a strike, you need to be able to be versatile. You can't always expect that your palm is going to be up when you're blocking, so you need to be able to do both. So you need to be able to hit it with a Tan Sao, flop and pull and strike, and pull and strike. But you also need to be able to Dada Shao and just instantly boom and boom, right? And then the last course on the opposite side, threading hand. 1, 2. When you do your threading hand, if you do it right, you can deflect some really hard stuff with this. Yeah, and it's a lot different than the fire blocks of karate or taekwondo because a lot of them go up. And if you had to block somebody who has really good limb conditioning or is really strong, or even like a bat or something, you don't want to localize the strike in one part of your arm. And when you're doing the more Wing Chun style threading hand fire block or the Filipino, it's the same in my opinion. You're getting more dispersion, and you might crack your arm, but you're not putting all the pressure in one single loop that's just going to leave your arm flopping around. But that information could save your life. Being able to deflect something very firmly may save your life one day. That is one of those techniques that it's good to have if you need it, and hopefully you never need it. So there it is. It's getting a little chilly out here, but this is the Wing Chun 102 that I wanted to share with you guys, correcting the Chun, and then I forgot what else I messed up. We already talked about it, so it doesn't matter. And then getting into the 4 contact points. So if you're working on your own self-defense, find a friend, learn some techniquing from a master, or if you have to online, just be very careful working with each other and work on your 4 contact points. Pick one reaction to each contact point and do it, 25 to 100 times each limb, each contact point, no less than once a week. Do this with your buddy. If you can do it every day, it's better. But if you do it regularly with one of your buddies, then you're going to have to be careful when you're out if somebody is confronting with you, because if they move too quick or they contact you, your body is trained to react, and you may not, if you're scared or nervous, you may not be able to stop yourself. Your body is going to do what it has to protect itself if it thinks it's in danger. And sometimes, yeah, you'll lose that control and your body will protect itself. So just be careful. So there you have it, Wing Chun 1 and 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for stopping by. Peace and blessings.